A machined brass key sheds microscopic filings every time it turns, yet tracking those exact grooves from his gym bag led straight to a hidden apartment. I documented every financial leak, but what exactly was waiting inside the manila envelope? Pause 2 seconds, I didn't hear him drop the bag. I saw the glint first. 6:14 a.m. Tuesday. The zipper of his charcoal Nike duffel caught the morning sun just long enough to reflect a second keyring. Not ours. Ours were on a titanium carabiner by the mudroom bowl. This was brass. Machined. Heavy. The kind you get cut at a hardware store that still uses a manual duplicator. He left for work at 6:22. I waited exactly 3 minutes. I pulled the ring free. 4 keys. One was for a 2019 Audi A6. One was a standard residential Yale. One was a high-security Medico cylinder. The last was a brass fob with a tiny stamped number, 4B. I didn't panic. Panic leaves fingerprints. I took a macro lens photo with my phone, timestamped at 6:26 a.m. Then I logged into our joint chase portal. I knew his routing habits. I'd built the household spreadsheets for 8 years. I knew exactly where to look when the cash flow didn't match the lifestyle. March 12th. April 12th. May 12th. Every month, on the 12th, a wire cleared from our joint account to an LLC called Cedar Ridge Holdings, LLC, $3,450 exactly. Categorized in his expense tracker as storage and maintenance. We didn't own storage. We owned a 3-bedroom colonial with a finished basement. I ran a quick search on the Delaware Division of Corporations. Registered agent, a P.O. box in Wilmington. Incorporator, blank. I pulled the state business entity search logs. Filed October 3rd. Signed by an out-of-state incorporation service. Standard shell protocol. Pause 2 seconds, I started mapping the timeline backward. I pulled the public records for every property management company operating within a 10-mile radius of his office. Cross-referenced the LLC address. Nothing. Then I checked the city utility database. Water and electric meters under Cedar Ridge. Address, 841 North Elm Street, Unit 4B. 8:45 p.m. that night, I drove past the building. It was a renovated industrial loft complex. 4th floor. Unit 4B faced an alley. The blinds were drawn. But on the 3rd floor balcony, a security camera blinked red. I noted the make. Ring. I made a mental note of the router placement. Back home, I didn't sleep. I opened his personal laptop. He'd left it unlocked. Classic overconfidence. I navigated to his email client. Filtered by Cedar and Lease. One result. Sent to an external Gmail account. Subject, finalized terms. Attachment, a PDF lease. Signed by Julian Vance. Not our name. His middle name. But the signature line showed a different ink pressure. A practiced hand. The lease ran 24 months. Started October 14th, exactly 11 days after our wedding anniversary dinner. The security deposit was $10,350. Paid via a cashier's check drawn from our joint savings. The property manager listed as Marcus Lynn. Phone number in the footer. I called Marcus at 11:02 p.m. I didn't identify myself. I posed as a courier confirming a key drop for Unit 4B. He gave me the lockbox code. 7-4-1-2. He also mentioned the monthly rent was $3,450, paid automatically. He asked if I needed a spare copy of the lease. I said no. I hung up. I wrote the code on a sticky note. I placed it inside his maroon leather wallet, behind his driver's license. Let him think it was his own handwriting. Pause 2 seconds, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Confrontation is a leak. I needed to map the entire architecture of the deception. I hired a forensic accountant through a boutique firm downtown. Retainer, $5,000. Paid from a separate account he didn't know I kept open. She pulled his corporate payroll records. He'd been funneling bonus checks into a secondary checking account at a local credit union. Account ending in 8891. Over the next 3 weeks, I tracked every transaction. $2,200 for a high-end mattress. $890 for an espresso system. $145 weekly for a meal. Prep service delivered to Unit 4B. I compiled a timeline. I printed every receipt. I cross-referenced his calendar entries with his phone location pings. He was there. Every Thursday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and every other Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I scheduled a consultation with a family law attorney on April 18th. I brought a manila folder. I laid out the LLC filings, the lease, the wire transfer logs, the mattress receipt, the location pings. She didn't blink. She just nodded. This is a classic asset concealment pattern, she said. But it's not illegal to rent a place. It becomes a breach when marital funds are used to maintain a secondary residence for an undisclosed purpose. We can trace the commingling. We can freeze the joint accounts. Or we can take control of the lease. She handed me a power of attorney draft. She handed me a property transfer form. She told me to sign nothing until I was ready to pull the trigger. Pause 2 seconds. Once you change the locks, she said, you trigger a formal separation. The clock starts ticking. I asked what would happen when he found out. She smiled. A cold, practiced thing. He won't. Not until he tries to open the door. At exactly 7:30, I made a decision. I was going to take the apartment. Not to live in it. To use it as leverage. But there's a catch I won't explain until 1300 hours. Keep that in mind. Because what happens at 1300 hours changes the entire timeline. I'm pausing here for a second. I need you to look at the pattern. The LLC formed in October. The wires started in November. The mattress and coffee maker delivered in December. The location pings begin in January. 3 months of setup before he ever stepped inside. Which red flag would you have caught first? The Delaware LLC registration? The cashier's check withdrawal? Or the calendar pings every Thursday? Drop a 1, 2, or 3 in the comments. Because I missed the first one. I only saw the key. I spent the next 2 weeks in surveillance mode. I didn't follow him. I followed the paper. I pulled the utility records for Unit 4B. Peak energy usage on Thursdays between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Water usage, minimal. It wasn't a long-term residence. It was a staging ground. A clean, quiet, sterile space. I hired a licensed locksmith on May 2nd. I gave him the address. I gave him the lockbox code. I told him to install a Schlage Primus high-security cylinder. I paid cash. I requested a master key set of 3. He delivered them in a velvet-lined case. Pause 2 seconds, I didn't tell him why I was doing it. I just needed the hardware ready. I was building a trap, but I hadn't sprung it yet. I needed one more piece. The notarized transfer. The document that would legally strip him of access. I scheduled the notary for May 9th at 2 p.m. My attorney drafted the assignment of lease. It transferred primary tenancy to me alone. It cited marital asset reallocation pending formal proceedings. It required my signature. And his forged signature. Which I had already practiced. Which I had already notarized through a mobile notary service he wouldn't trace. May 12th arrived. The same date the monthly wire always cleared. I logged into the Chase portal at 12 a.m. I initiated a stop payment request. I flagged the Cedar Ridge LLC account for suspicious activity. The bank's fraud algorithm triggered an automatic freeze within 47 minutes. I watched the transaction queue empty. I watched the wire bounce back to our joint account. I didn't celebrate. I documented it. Screenshot. Timestamp. PDF export. I packed the manila envelope. Inside, the original lease, the stop payment confirmation, the notarized assignment of tenancy, and a single Polaroid. The Polaroid showed the inside of Unit 4B. I hadn't been inside yet. I hadn't needed to. But I knew what was in it. The mattress. The Nespresso. The blank walls. The silence. I drove to 841 North Elm at 4:15 p.m. I used the lockbox code 7-4-1-2, the key clicked. The door swung open. The air inside was stale. Filtered. I walked straight to the deadbolt. I measured the back sat 2 3/8 inches. Perfect fit for the new cylinder. I left. I didn't touch anything else. I just locked it behind me and dropped the old key in a storm drain 3 blocks away. Pause 2 seconds, but there's something I haven't told you yet. I didn't change the locks to keep him out. I changed them to see who else would try to get in. Because the lease wasn't just in his name. It was co-tenanted. On page 4 of the PDF I downloaded months ago, there was a second signature line. Faded. Almost invisible under the glare of my monitor. I'd missed it on the first pass. I didn't miss it on the third. Elena Rostova. I ran the name. Corporate database. Real estate broker. Licensed in 3 states. No criminal record. No family ties to him. But I found something else. A LinkedIn post from February 2023. A photo of her holding a top producer plaque. Standing in the lobby of 841 North Elm. The exact address. I called my attorney. I told her about the co-tenant. She went quiet for 6 seconds. Then she said, if he's using a broker to front a lease, it's not a personal residence. It's a corporate asset. Or a front for a shell company. If we take over the lease, we take over her liability. We become the responsible party. I didn't care. I needed the apartment secured. I needed the locks changed. I needed the paper trail to point directly to me. May 14th, 8 a.m. I arrived at the building with the new Schlage deadbolt. The locksmith met me at the alley entrance. He didn't ask questions. He just unscrewed the old cylinder, dropped it in a plastic evidence bag, and installed the new one. 3 minutes. 4 screws. 1 master key handed to me. I kept it. I didn't hand him the other 2. I dropped them in a separate envelope. I labeled it Evidence B. Pause 2 seconds, I walked inside. The apartment was exactly as I'd pictured. Bare floors. White walls. A queen mattress on a platform frame. An espresso machine on the counter. A stack of unread mail. I opened the first one. A utility bill. Addressed to Cedar Ridge Holdings. Postmarked May 1st, paid in full. I took a photo. I timestamped it. 8:17 a.m. I placed the manila envelope on the kitchen counter. Centered. Parallel to the edge of the granite. I took a step back. I looked at the deadbolt. It gleamed. I locked it from the inside. I left through the fire escape. I didn't look back. He didn't come that day. He came the next. Thursday, May 15th, 6:32 p.m. I know the exact time because I was sitting in my sedan 2 blocks away, watching through a telephoto lens. He pulled into the alley. He parked. He walked to the building. He typed 7-4-1-2 into the lockbox. He pulled out the old brass key. He approached the door. He inserted it. It didn't turn. It scraped against the new pins. He jiggled it. He pulled it out. He looked at the keyway. He saw the Schlage cylinder. He knocked. Once. Twice. 3 times. No answer. He stepped back. He looked around the alley. He pulled out his phone. He called someone. I couldn't hear the ringtone from 2 blocks away. But I saw the light on his face. Blue screen. He typed a message. Sent it. He leaned against the wall. He waited. Paused 2 seconds. At 6:45 p.m., he tried the lock again. Same key. Same scrape. He pulled a multi-tool from his pocket. He tried to unscrew the faceplate. The new cylinder had a security tab. The tool slipped. He stopped. He finally noticed the envelope on the counter. Through the glass panel beside the door. He stepped closer. He read the cover. He froze. He didn't break in. He didn't call the police. He just stood there. For 11 minutes. Then he turned. He walked back to his car. He drove away. I followed. I kept exactly 4 car lengths back. He didn't go home. He drove to a Starbucks on 4th Avenue. He sat in the parking lot. He opened his laptop. He started typing. I parked across the street. I waited. At 8:11 p.m., his screen flashed. I knew what it was. A bank alert. The joint account freeze notification. The $3,450 wire bounce. He was watching the money disappear. I didn't move until he left. I drove back to the building at 10 p.m. I used the master key. I entered. I checked the envelope. It was untouched. I opened it. I pulled out the Polaroid I'd left inside. I flipped it over. On the back, in fresh ink, was a single word. Why? I didn't answer it. I left it there. I locked the door behind me. I walked away. Paused 2 seconds. That was 3 weeks ago. The legal filings are active. The joint accounts are frozen. The lease is under my name. He hasn't tried to contact me. He hasn't called his attorney. He hasn't filed a restraining order. He's just gone quiet. Which is the most dangerous part of any forensic unraveling. Silence isn't surrender. It's preparation. I went back to Unit 4B yesterday. I used the master key. I opened the door. The envelope was still on the counter. But the Polaroid was gone. In its place was a new manila envelope. Unsealed. I opened it. Inside was a single bank statement. Not from Chase. From an offshore institution in the Cayman Islands. Account holder, Cedar Ridge Holdings. Transaction date, May 16th. 1 day after I changed the locks. Pause 2 seconds, the amount was $412,000. Transferred from a personal trust to an account I don't recognize. And at the bottom, stamped in red ink, was a routing code. A code that matches a corporate entity registered in Zurich. Not Delaware. Not Cayman. Zurich. I thought I was closing a loop. I thought I was securing a lease. I was just opening a vault. The locks are changed. But the door he's trying to open isn't mine. It's his. And what I found inside the Cayman statement changes everything about who he really is. Pause 2 seconds.